Hello guys, it's Revolution, back for part 3 of What If Goku Landed on Planet Krypton. Things got pretty wild in part 2 of this series. If you haven't seen part 1 or part 2, they are on my channel in my library and the links to them are down in the pinned comments of this video. Do check them out if you haven't seen them yet. It goes without saying that part 3 won't make much sense if you haven't seen part 1 and part 2. By all means, if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, do hit that subscribe button and the bell button next to it to be notified when I release more videos. And of course, if you want part 4 to this series after the conclusion of part 3, make sure you let me know why you want it down in the comments section. Keep smashing that like button, keep lending the dice shanking your energy. So guys, if you've not seen part 1 or part 2, now is the time to switch over to those videos, links down in the pinned comment, as we are now going into a quick recap of what happened in part 2. You have been warned. So, Superman Kal-El was in search of the Dragon Balls to revive Goku after Goku was killed in the defense against General Zod on planet Earth. Of course, this happened in part 1 of this series, but in part 2, whilst attaining the Dragon Balls, Piccolo finds a disturbance, and of course that eventually ends up being Doomsday. Kal-El vowed to revive Piccolo, but first he revived Kal-El, otherwise known as Goku or Kakarot, who had been training on King Kai's planet, where he would learn the Kaioken and the instant transmission. Superman, on the other hand, would learn the Kamehameha, training under Master Roshi and befriending Krillin. Of course, when the Saiyans, Vegeta, Raditz and Nappa landed on Earth, they actually bumped into Doomsday. Doomsday kills off Raditz and Nappa. Goku, Vegeta and Superman all have to fight together to take on Doomsday. With the two Saiyans and the Kryptonian fighting together, they manage to send the powerful Doomsday into deep space. For a few more events, Vegeta is sent scurrying from Earth without his tail, and that is where part 2 of this series finished. So in the timeline, it's now late age 762. After defeating both Doomsday and the Saiyan Prince Vegeta, Goku and Superman are left on Earth to pick up the pieces. Superman states that he is going to wait for the Dragon Balls to reinitiate, and then he is going to use these Dragon Balls in order to revive Piccolo. Kal-El, Goku on the other hand, who now has free roam of the Earth, states that he is going to explore the Earth and learn new abilities and increase his power. Of course, he is a Saiyan, that's what Saiyans do, but he also states that just in case Vegeta ever returns, he wants to be ready. Kal-El would then go on an adventure around the Earth, where he would ultimately meet Tenshin Han, who would also briefly train under Master Crane until he realised that Master Crane's ethics weren't quite befitting of the values taught to him by Jor-El and Laura back on Planet Krypton when he was a child. But even before dispersing from the Crane School, Goku would ultimately learn the Kiko-Ho in a matter of days, otherwise known as the Tri-Beam Cannon, a Crane School speciality. But during his short time there, he also ignited the fighting spirit within Tenshin Han, a student of the Crane School, who, by seeing Goku, decided that he would also leave the Crane School and seek his own journey for power. After leaving the Crane School, Goku himself would eventually fatefully meet an elderly Grandpa Gohan, where he would undergo special training. In the meantime, Kal-El agreed to go back with Krillin and train until the Dragon Balls reinitiated, but at that moment he received message from Kami, the god of Earth, who demanded Kal-El's attendance on the lookout immediately. At this point, Kal-El, Superman, knew something was iffy with Kami and his tone. Upon arriving on the lookout, Kami questioned Superman on the whereabouts of Piccolo. Kal-El would go on to tell Kami about the fate of Piccolo, which of course happened in part 2, where after being defeated by Doomsday, Piccolo sacrificed himself to save Superman, where Doomsday would ultimately plunge his fist straight through Piccolo's heart, and Piccolo seemingly dying in Superman's arms. However, Mr. Popo then advocated that if Piccolo had truly died, that Kami himself would have disappeared, and so would the Dragon Balls. Of course, despite seeming somewhat weird, Kami was standing right in front of Superman, and he'd only just used the Dragon Balls and summoned Shenron to revive Goku in order to fight against the invasion of the Saiyans. At this very moment, Kami's eyes went bright blood red, and he started to speak in a Ori voice, saying that Superman, Kal-El, must enter the Phantom Zone itself in order to save his friend Piccolo. The redness in Kami's eyes faded and he would fall to one knee, looking somewhat exhausted. It seemed that Kami, the god of Earth, had just been possessed. Mr. Popo stated that this isn't the first time that this had happened to Kami, and he asked Superman to go to the Fortress of Solitude to seek what lied in the Phantom Zone. Superman stated there was no way that Piccolo could be in the Phantom Zone because when Doomsday was pulled back into the Phantom Zone, Piccolo still remained on planet Earth and died in his arms. This was when Kami stated that Piccolo may have used Namekian rebirth and the egg may have been pulled into the Phantom Zone. If they could retrieve that egg, the Namekian child would ultimately possess the memories and emotions of Piccolo. Superman travelled to the Fortress of Solitude, spoke to the consciousness of Jor-El. Jor-El told Superman about the portal to the Phantom Zone, which was in the Fortress of Solitude. He also told Superman how most of the prisoners in the Phantom Zone had a grudge against Jor-El and would therefore have a grudge against Kal-El because Jor-El was one of the founders of the Phantom Zone and its reasons for imprisoning Kryptonian lawbreakers. He told Kal-El to look into the Phantom Zone portal to find what he seeks. He also told Kal-El that Doomsday was no longer being pulled back into the Phantom Zone. Superman looked into this portal in search for Piccolo and he found an egg, just as Kami had theorized. Piccolo, in his last moments, must have used Namekian rebirth in order to produce another Namekian child, which of course kept Kami alive and therefore the use of the Dragon Balls. Kal-El understood that Piccolo realized that Earth's best hope against the Saiyans and Doomsday's threat in Part 2 would lie with Kal-El and Kal-El, the Saiyan and the Kryptonian, and therefore sacrificed himself in hopes to be found later. Superman acknowledged Piccolo's strategic prowess, but Piccolo couldn't have accounted for the fact that the rebirth of the Namekian egg would ultimately land on Doomsday and be pulled back into the Phantom Zone with him. But just as Kal-El found this egg, that's when a mysterious figure appeared in the portal. He goaded Superman and stated that he would have his revenge on the El family and told Superman that if he didn't come into the Phantom Zone that he would destroy this egg and feed it to the monster. Superman couldn't identify this figure because somehow this figure had distorted the vision between the portal and the Earth, but he recognised the voice as the one that had possessed Kami. Of course, there was a long time to go till the Dragon Balls reinitiated, so he couldn't use the Dragon Balls in order to wish Piccolo from the Phantom Zone. Just as Superman went to enter the Phantom Zone, the consciousness of Jor-El that resided in the Fortress of Solitude spoke out to Superman and told Kal-El to recruit the help of his adopted brother, Kal-El, the Saiyan raised by Jor-El and Lara before Superman was born, and to bring Goku to the Fortress of Solitude so that he can see the statues of Jor-El and Lara in the Fortress of Solitude, and then Goku would remember exactly why he is fighting for good. Of course, right at this point, Superman didn't know where Goku was, so he exited the Fortress of Solitude and sent a Super Kamehameha up into space. Goku, who was on the opposite side of the planet, who had just had an attempted mugging against him by some weird guy with a flying levitating cat, felt this huge amount of energy and obviously knew whose power it was. Of course, Goku can sense ki. Goku, who was only messing with this mugger in terms of fighting him, decided to one-shot this mugger, who of course just turned out to be Yamcha. Goku then used instant transmission to go right to Superman. Superman led Goku into the Fortress of Solitude. Goku, in complete amazement that a Kryptonian building was on planet Earth, dropped to his knees and said that he misses planet Krypton and wishes he could see Jor-El and Lara again. Goku agreed to go into the Phantom Zone with Superman in order to find Piccolo, and so they went through the portal in the Fortress of Solitude into the Phantom Zone. The Phantom Zone is an interdimensional realm outside the normal space-time continuum. What Goku and Superman found was a barren and insubstantial null area, absent of any physical material. Fortunately for Goku and Superman, Jor-El's projection device allowed them to be sent into the zone without losing their physical bodies. But Goku, of course, who had been in the Phantom Zone before during his earlier years with General Zod, said that there were particular areas where certain phantoms did actually pertain a human physical body. And at that moment, in the distance, a beam of light appeared, beckoning Superman. Of course, with Kal-El eager to save Piccolo from the clutches of this mysterious figure, Superman went forth towards this beam of light, with Goku following by. Goku and Superman started flying faster, but this light didn't seem to be coming any closer. However, these phantoms were starting to swarm both Goku and Superman, but it became quite clear to both Goku and Superman that these phantoms were only interested in Superman. Was it because he bore the symbol of L, the sigil from the house of L, on his suit? But Goku had an idea. He told Superman to continue going towards the beam of light, and then he used the tri-beam attack that he learned whilst spending a week under Master Crane to blow back all these phantoms. Of course, it didn't have that much of an effect because obviously these phantoms are non-corporeal, but it at least brought Superman a few seconds to speed forward towards this light. And of course, he did eventually get to that light. He entered a particular zone where all of a sudden the atmosphere felt completely different, and there was a sign saying, "Welcome to Aetheropolis." He passed by this sign and continued forth towards this beam of light, drawing closer and closer to this light, and he eventually found himself at a mansion. Before he knew it, he was entrapped, imprisoned in a metaphysical barrier. And that's when this figure appeared, holding in his hand an egg that came from Piccolo. This figure stated that Superman had done well to escape the phantoms that were after his blood upon entering the Phantom Zone. Of course, he didn't know about Goku, who had at least somewhat stopped the phantoms. Superman demanded this figure reveal who he was, and of course, this figure obliged by saying that he was the Phantom King, otherwise known as Zardu. Zardu told Kal-El that he was entrapped in the Phantom Zone for breaking Kryptonian laws, and he was entrapped because Kal-El's father, Jor-El, came up with the conception of imprisoning any criminal on Krypton in this particular zone. Zardu stated that he had finally got his revenge against the El family, but he got more than he bargained for because he could now use Superman's power to power his ectosuit, which would ultimately allow him to roam free from the Phantom Zone. The metaphysical prison started to drain Superman of his power, and Zardu's, and started to stream Superman's power to a device called the Projector. This started to empower Zardu's ectosuit, and at this moment, this is when another mysterious figure walked out. Superman, in agony from having his power drained, looked up to see a green humanoid figure carrying a large bottle that seemed to be encapsulating a mini city. This figure stated that Project Cadmus was now complete, and that Zardu, the Phantom King, should seal the Phantom Zone once he had taken his leave. At that moment, a distortion happened, and this figure left through that distortion. Zardu then turned to look at Superman and said, "This egg was what you came for," and crushed this egg in his hand right in front of Superman. Of course, this ended the life of Piccolo, and this also ended the life of Kami, the god of Earth, rendering the Dragon Balls of Earth obsolete. The suit that Zardu was wearing started to emit a large amount of energy, and this was when he started to fade out into the distance. And just as he was fading, he stated to Kal-El that he would destroy planet Earth, the Earth that he grew up on. The metaphysical prison around Superman vanished, but he was left exhausted. Meanwhile, in the Phantom Zone, Goku, who was fighting off the Phantoms with very little success, heard a huge roar. All of a sudden, the Phantoms started to back away. He heard one of them say, "It's the Overlord." Before Goku knew it, he was flung across the Phantom Zone in an instant, battered aside, swatted aside by a giant dragon-like creature. This, of course, was the Aether, the Overlord of the Phantom Zone. Goku used the Kaioken ×4, but he was once again swatted aside. This being was far too powerful for Goku. He then tried the tri-beam attack, and that failed as well. Goku literally threw the kitchen sink at this monster, but it was completely unaffected. At that moment, when he had completely run out of ideas, he heard a voice that resembled the man who raised him on planet Krypton all those years ago, Jor-El. The voice said, "Hit him in the skull with everything you've got." and that gave Goku the perfect idea. He was going to utilize the move he learnt with Grandpa Gohan. Goku waited for the Aether to go in for the attack. He was about to literally gobble Goku whole, but at that moment Goku used the Dragon Fist to plunge his fist straight through the skull of the dragon, and it worked. But what he found was that he was in some sort of strange dimension. Rather than finding himself plunging through the anatomy of the Aether, Goku found himself in this weird, distorted zone. He saw what resembled a door, and the voice of Jor-El spoke to Goku again. He told him that by leaving now was his only opportunity to leave the Phantom Zone, and it was also his only opportunity to save Superman, as the Phantom King Zardu had closed all the exits to the Phantom Zone. Of course, Goku obliged. He left through this door and found himself on Kami's lookout. Back at the mansion in Aetheropolis, Superman, who was absolutely exhausted after having his energy drained, also heard Jor-El's voice, and Jor-El told Superman at this moment he must destroy the projector to bring Zardu back from Earth into the Phantom Zone. On Kami's lookout, Goku arrived to see that this mysterious figure was in a heated debate with Mr. Popo. This figure was demanding that he was made the god of Earth. He wanted to become the Kami. This being, of course, was Zardu, the Phantom King. In the Phantom Zone, Superman got to his feet and loaded up the Kamehameha and fired it towards the projector. But this projector was full of energy that was drained from Superman before, and Superman was extremely drained. But back on Kami's Earth, Zardu was starting to have somewhat of a fit, and the phantom-like projection of what Superman was doing to the projector became visible. Goku saw Superman, Kal-El, using the Kamehameha with everything he had, using all of his willpower to try and destroy this projector. Goku, of course, knew he had to do something, so he looked at the move that Superman was utilizing and copied it. Goku fired up the Kamehameha and fired it at the physical being of Zardu that was on Kami's lookout. Together, Goku and Superman, Kal-El and Kal-El were using the Kamehameha in tandem to defeat the same energy from two different realms. In the Phantom Zone, this caused the projector to explode, destroying Zardu, the Phantom King's ectosuit, which allowed him to phase into the real world, and it dragged Zardu back into the Phantom Zone. Of course, with Project Cadmus, which sealed off all the exits to the Phantom Zone, this left Superman and Zardu entrapped within the Phantom Zone. Goku, of course, was on Kami's lookout, said that he would use the Dragon Balls to bring Superman back into the real world, just as Superman brought him back into the real world in Part 2. But Mr. Popo told Goku how the Dragon Balls had now disappeared due to Kami vanishing. Of course, Piccolo's egg, where he used Namekian Rebirth, was destroyed by Zardu, the Phantom King, and that ultimately wiped Kami from existence. But Mr. Popo said that Goku could visit Planet Namek, the birthplace of Kami and Piccolo, and he would find Dragon Balls on that planet. Goku asked how he would get to that planet. Mr. Popo suggested that Goku visit the Fortress of Solitude, which of course Goku did, and when there, he spoke to the consciousness of Jor-El. Jor-El told his Saiyan adopted son that in the Fortress of Solitude there was a spaceship called the Cosmic Ark, which was massively faster than light and could get him to Planet Namek. Goku boarded the Cosmic Ark and set forth to Planet Namek in order to obtain the Namekian Dragon Balls in order to wish Superman out of the Phantom Zone. Goku was set to land on Planet Namek on December the 24th of age 762, without knowing the type of beings he would come across, including old rival the Saiyan Prince Vegeta and the mighty evil Emperor Lord Frieza. Okay guys, so that's all for part 3. Goku's heading to Namek. If you want to see part 4, make sure you smash a like on the video and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I appreciate all your continued support. Until next time, Ad Astra.